PG&E's monopoly territory is home to 17 million people.
Families already struggle to pay their bills.
PG&E was convicted of 91 felonies.
Really? I mean, what's next?
Greybeard Talks Solar. He is SolarWise.
Welcome to the Greybeard Talks Solar YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is going to be all about solar batteries. How do they work? Do you need one? What are the warranties? All of that and more. And this is coming out of a special ebook that I actually wrote all about batteries. It's called Solar Batteries, Everything That You Need to Know Simplified. And we'll make this available to everybody that watches this video a little later. I'll tell you how to get that. But let's jump right into the topic of today, which is solar batteries. Don't forget to smash that like, subscribe, and share button if you find this information resourceful and beneficial to you in your quest to further your knowledge on solar. So let's talk about solar batteries. First things first, okay? Do you need a battery today? That's the biggest question that we get. And the answer to that question depends or varies depending on whether you have solar now or whether you're looking to get solar. So here, let me explain. In California, back in April of 2023, California implemented NEM 3, Net Energy Metering 3.0. And effectively, it changed substantially the crediting rate that you get for excess energy that's sent to the utility. So let me explain this simply. On any bright, sunshiny day, your solar system on the roof is going to generate more energy than the house is using. That energy, that surplus energy, the excess, it has to go somewhere. And if it goes to the utility, if you're a new solar customer now, and it goes to the utility, think of it this way. Every watt you send, if you send 10, you only get credit for 25%. So if you send 10 watts of energy to the utility, you only get to use 2.5 watts back from them. Even though you sent them 10, you only get to use 2.5. So this is important because I'm going to draw a line, a timeline here. Anybody that got solar before NEM 3, before this change was implemented in April. And this is how simply you would know if you're one of these people. If you have solar now and you get a true up bill, you're part of the older system. And I'll explain that in a second. You're part of NEM 2. But if you haven't gotten solar yet, or if you've got solar in the last year or two and you don't get a true up, then you're part of NEM 3, Net Energy Metering 3.0. So anybody that got solar in the last year and a half, NEM 3. Anybody that's going to get solar now, NEM 3. Anybody that got solar before April of 2023, more than likely your NEM 2 customers, which here's the reason I make this distinction. For Net Energy Metering 2.0 customers, the way it used to work, one-to-one crediting. So effectively on that same bright sunshiny day, solar's on the roof, it starts generating energy. It's generating more energy than the house is consuming at that juncture. The surplus energy, that excess, is exported to the utility. Let's take, for example, in California, PG&E. That energy is exported to PG&E, and PG&E acts like a battery for you. They store that energy, and if you send them 10 watts, you get to pull 10 watts back. Send them 10, you get to get 10. So that's why you have a true-up year. That's why they don't want to trade money with you month to month, because some months you might overperform, some months you might underperform. PG&E didn't want you give me $50, I give you $80, you give me $20, I give you $35. They didn't want to get into that month to month thing. So they take a look at a whole year, and did you send us more than you pulled from us? If you sent more than you pulled, then you have a credit. But if you pulled more from the utility than what you sent, then you owe them. That's why people end up with a negative balance true up. So effectively, only new solar customers really significantly need solar batteries because that's how you store that surplus. Think of it this way. If you banked with a bank, that every $100 you deposited, they kept 75 and they only gave you credit for 25, you'd probably never bank with that bank. You'd bury the money in your backyard or get your own safe. That's where the battery analogy comes into play. Battery's like a safe for you instead of that bank example. It stores that energy that the system created throughout the day and then allows you to then push or use that energy in the home later that evening if you want, or to possibly avoid the higher tier 2 charges in the late afternoon, depending on the season. So simply stated, if you're a NEM3 new solar customer looking to install solar, you definitely need batteries. If you're an older solar customer, the utility generally acts like a battery for you, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later, but that's rule number 1. Number 2, who are the major players in batteries right now? Effectively, there's 3 main players that I would say encompass at least 90% of the solar battery business out there. And these players are names you'd recognize. One, maybe not. So first one, Tesla. Okay, everyone's familiar with Tesla. Tesla has a lot of name brand recognition. Tesla is a player in batteries for sure. The next one is Enphase. Enphase is widely regarded as like the Toyota or Honda of durability when it comes to their inverters, and they also have batteries. And these batteries are really meant to interface and talk to each other with the inverters. And so Enphase is another example. And then up and coming, we're seeing a lot more. A company by the name of Franklin makes a battery that we like very much. So Tesla, Enphase, and Franklin, I would guess right now probably 90% of the market for solar batteries. So keep that in mind when you're out there looking. Now, different batteries have different functions, okay? If you're looking for a budget battery, and again, I outlined this in our latest ebook. If you want to get this ebook, it's called Solar Batteries, Everything That You Didn't Know, Simplified. I go in a lot more detail on this ebook. All you got to do is text YouTube to 84503, and we'll send you that ebook, YouTube to 84503. You'll get the Solar Batteries, Everything That You Need to Know, Simplified. But let's talk about this. So, Tesla has backup capability to their batteries, meaning that the battery stores all of the surplus energy that's created throughout the day and also provides some measure of backup power in the event of a power loss. But it makes them more expensive because they have 2 functions: storing that surplus energy and backup power. Now, Enphase is really interesting with their battery in that they have 2 options for you. You can choose a cheaper version of the battery that doesn't hardwire into your main panel. It does not back up the house. But for example, what it does do is take all of that surplus energy that's created throughout the day and stores it in the battery for you to use later that evening. Think of this battery as a darkness bridge battery. It's meant to push energy into your house every evening because clearly nobody's figured out how to generate energy from moonlight yet. So you want to be able to store the daytime energy to help benefit you in the evening time instead of pulling from the utility. So they have a version of a battery called cost savings battery that's about half the cost of a full backup capable battery. And these cost savings batteries do not provide backup power to the home, but they do store that excess energy. So you might want to consider that type of battery if you're on a budget. If you want to get a battery, if you want to benefit from batteries, but your cost is an important concern, then Enphase has the advantage because you can actually build their battery just to be the cost savings, or you can have it be backup capable like the Tesla. Now, getting into the Franklin battery provides backup power and cost savings benefits. So of the 3 I mentioned, Tesla, Enphase, and Franklin, the cheapest option for homeowners that are on a budget would be a cost savings battery that does not provide backup power to the house. So think of it this way. Having a backup capable battery is really, really great if you have frequent or persistent power loss. If you're somebody that experiences a power loss event less than, let's say, 5 times a year, and usually when the power goes out, it only goes out for an hour or 2 at most, then I don't think that you would want or need, per se, the backup capable version of it. So you might be able to save some money that way. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we deal with homeowners in rural areas, okay, they might experience 15 power loss events a year, and some of those events last longer than a day. I think for those folks, or anybody that runs a business out of their house that needs constant power, anybody that has medical equipment inside their home that needs constant power, then yes, by all means, consider a backup capable battery. But if you're on a budget, it's nice to know that Enphase has an option that could be cheaper for you than the other two major battery suppliers out there, and that is what we call the cost savings battery. And again, we outline this in our latest ebook. Text YouTube to 84503. Now, the big question that we always get also is, how many batteries do you need? Can one battery back up your whole home? How many batteries do I need? Well, here's an interesting thing to consider when it comes to how many batteries do you need? How often do you leave the house, and when do you go to bed? So more specifically, I will address two major differences in situations. So let's take, for example, a retired couple that usually uses most of the energy inside their home throughout the day. They're home throughout the day, get up early, work throughout the day, sun's shining, it's bright, they're using most of the energy that they're going to use throughout the day, and then they go to bed, let's say at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Now, because they're retired and they don't use a lot of energy in the evening time, somebody like that could get by with fewer batteries than the next scenario that I'm going to give you. So instead of you being retired, let's say now you are a working family. So both of the income providers or the major work persons in the household work, let's say, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And then you've got kids that go to school. Maybe you've got some teenagers, et cetera, in the house. And so this profile of a couple would mean that when they come home, 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, that's when all the power starts to be used. That's when you'll use most of your tier 2 energy or the most expensive energy in the home. And let's say the couple's night owls, they don't go to bed until, let's say, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the night. And then they've got teenagers that stay up even past that time, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, gaming or mining crypto or whatever it is that they're doing. In that type of a scenario, you're going to use a lot more energy in the evening time than you would with that retired couple. And so batteries are really meant to address evening consumption mostly, because if you're going to use it day to day, if you're not experiencing a power loss event, then you want to make sure you've got enough energy in the evening time. So think of the battery as a darkness bridge, bridging sundown with sunup. Now, this is another point to consider. This is why it's so difficult to say that solar is not a one size fits all. Okay, we can take the same family in the same house on the same street on the same side of the street, but take two different families that consume two different amounts of energy, and you're going to have a completely different battery need. One family may need more than another because effectively they use energy at different times and use more of it at a different time. So here's a rough rule of thumb that we subscribe to. If you are a heavy evening time energy consumer, okay, and you use a decent chunk of energy, then think of it this way. For every 7 panels, and I'm thinking like 400 watt panels. So for every 7 panels that you have, you definitely would want to have a 5,000 watt storage capable battery to be able to store the surplus energy that those panels creates. Now, if you're a retired couple, you might get away with 10 or 12 panels before you would add a battery, a 5,000 watt storage capable battery to be able to address that need. Differently, so stated differently, think of it this way. In solar, the size of the solar system, this is a 6 kW system. What does that mean? It basically means it's a 6,000 watt system. It's just simply the panel count times the wattage of each panel. Let's simplify. Let's say it's a 15 panel system and each panel is 400 watts a piece. That makes that 6,000 watt system that I'm describing. Now, here's a rough rule of thumb that you could use. For every 6,000 watts, double that number, 12,000, I would want at least a 12 kW storage capable battery. So for example, you want to take the wattage of the system. I have a 10 kW system, which is a 10,000 watt system. You'd want to have at least 20,000 watts of storage capability for that battery. So take the PV, the photovoltaic size of the system, and double it, and that'll give you a rough estimate as to how many panels you might need. Now, one other thing I'm going to get into is battery warranties. Not all manufacturers are the same. There is a distinct difference amongst different battery manufacturers, and there's one battery out there that's actually got a warranty that's 50% longer than the competition. So most people recognize Tesla as a major name brand battery manufacturer, solar panel manufacturer, solar company. And so the Tesla Powerwall, for example, has gotten a lot of attention. That Tesla Powerwall has a manufacturer warranty of 10 years. Well, you're not making a solar investment just for the next 10 years. You're making it for the 20 to 30 years after that. So I think one of the disadvantages of the Tesla Powerwall is it only has a 10-year warranty. Whereas, for example, with Enphase is the manufacturer I was talking about before that has two different battery types. Their manufacturer warranty is a 15-year manufacturer warranty, so 50% longer than the Enphase equivalent. So we very much like Enphase. We think Enphase is one of the best examples of an all-encompassing battery system that you can have. And I'm hoping that this information I'm sharing with you sheds a little light on this whole equation. So one last point here. I go a lot deeper. I've got about 16 pages in this solar batteries, everything that you need to know, simplified. It's a special ebook. I'll make it available to my YouTube listeners. All you got to do is text YouTube, that word YouTube, to 84503, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of it. And if this information was informative for you, please smash that like, share, and subscribe button. I want to thank you so much for watching the Greybeard Talks Solar channel, where a little wisdom goes a long way toward turning sunshine into some serious savings. Stay charged, stay informed, and keep shining, my friends. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Greybeard out.
Thanks for listening to SolarWise. Greybeard Talks Solar. Please visit our website, solarwiseco.com, to learn more. And we will see you next time on SolarWise.